By now, you've likely heard El Niño is back. But did you know this year's event could develop into a super El Niño and push global temperatures into record territory, especially here in Canada? And that could have major consequences.
Images like these from Fort McMurray are a reminder of what's at stake. This 2016 wildfire was one of the most destructive wildfires in Canadian history, and it followed a super El Niño event.
The current forecasts are indicating about a 50-50 chance that the developing El Niño will become one of these very strong events.
El Niño occurs when the temperature of the Pacific Ocean along the equator becomes warmer than usual.
This ocean surface warming can shift atmospheric circulation patterns over much of the world,
which changes the weather around the globe. In Canada, even a weak El Niño can cause our country to heat up, particularly across Western Canada.
When there's one of these very strong El Niños, the warming can stretch right across to the East Coast.
This warming doesn't happen all year long. It typically starts in the fall.
So for us, the main effects usually set in during the winter and extending right into spring.
Super El Niños occur roughly once every 10 to 20 years. The last three were in 1982-83, 1997-98, and 2015 and 16. Each brought unseasonably warm conditions to Canada. In 2016, every province was 1 to 5 degrees above normal, and this extra heat matters.
The climate change by itself has been increasing temperatures in Canada at about twice the rate on average that the world as a whole is warming.
And this warming is also most pronounced in the winter. So when you add those two effects, that means much less snow, an earlier spring melt, and drier conditions. That's why scientists are paying close attention. This year's El Niño could increase the drought across the country and brings the potential for an earlier and more intense wildfire season in 2027.
El Niño doesn't just affect conditions on land. Ocean ecosystems can also be impacted. Food supplies for species like juvenile salmon and plankton can become constrained, and this works its way throughout the food web.
So in an El Niño year, these northward winds during the winter tend to be stronger, keeping the nutrients trapped, and that so-called spring transition where the nutrients are brought up can be much later and somewhat weaker.
And food production for humans can also become limited.
The impacts of El Niño in Canada pale in comparison to some parts of the world where, such as Southeast Asia and Southern Central America into Northern South America, where El Niño almost guarantees there will be quite a severe drought. So there can be pretty dramatic impacts on production of food and commodities in all of these regions.
One benefit of El Niño, strong or not, is the Atlantic hurricane season can be less active. This could mean fewer major storms for eastern Canada this year.
Scientists will be watching the development of this El Niño. However, regardless of how strong it is, there will be an impact on Canadian lives. Kristi Gordon, Global News.